No.
No, mine's not on.
This one's on.
Testing.
Testing, testing. No?
Testing, testing.
Okay. Oh,
That's me.
no. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. If you'd stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you.
I think it was working. It was happening. We were hearing the thud.
Did I disconnect him?
I don't know.
Test, test, test. You can sing now. Do we have to wait till Jim to get to the microphone?
I think we're good. Okay.
No,
we're good.
no,
We're good.
They're
Thank you.
good.
Okay, agenda review. Anything to add to the agenda?
Yes, I did want to add, Krista had wanted to add House Bill 20.
Now you're working, Kathy.
Krista had asked to add House Bill 20, and I'm prepared just to give you a little information about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the January 11th school board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Tim. Second? Second by Jim Pittman. Okay, any errors, omissions, corrections? Okay, all those in favor, let's do a roll call vote. Krista? Julianne? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim is absent. Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes aye. Thank you. The next item is is kind of a split. We have the minutes of the January 30th board meeting. That includes the review for the deliberative session. The deliberative session, we'll just vote on that separately, and then the rest of the board meeting, which is non-public. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes for the January 3rd board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Tim. Seconded, Jim Pittman. Okay, another roll call vote. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Abstain.
Abstain? Okay, yeah. Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Abstain.
Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes aye as well. And the next set of minutes is for the deliberative session itself. You've got those minutes separately.
Yep. So moved.
Moved by Tim, seconded by Jim Pittman. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Abstain.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Abstain.
Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes aye as well. And the next item is approving the manifests. The manifests today that are being signed, the accounts payable manifest total $1,920,631.24. The payroll manifests are $1,974,159.98 for a total of $3,984,791.22.
So moved on the manifest.
Motion to approve manifest. Second?
Second.
Second, Wendy. Okay, Krista.
Yes.
Julianne? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes aye as well. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is public input. Anyone would like to speak, public input?
I'm just going to ask that we can hear everybody present. It's required by law that we can hear everybody that's participating in the meeting, so I can't hear Julianne. If you could put a microphone on her, I'd appreciate that.
I will do
It's just
that.
difficult to hear
Yep,
her.
I
So
will
thank
take-
you.
I will
That's all
take care of
say
that.
right now.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on. No other public input?
Hello, my name is Nate Williams. I have a child at Effingham Elementary. I'd like to first start out by thanking all the teachers and staff and administrators who've been putting in the extra time and effort to keep the hybrid model going. I know my child's teacher is in Seesaw late into the night, making sure assignments are ready for the next day or commenting on work for the current day. So thank you to all of them. As a parent of an elementary school child, I see the great benefit the on-site learning has on my child's mental, educational, and emotional well-being. The days my child is on site, my child is upbeat and excited to learn. Excuse me. When my child is at home, it's a constant struggle to keep my child focused to accomplish the schoolwork of the day. I've talked to the some other elementary school parents, and they have shared the same frustrations with their child struggling with, at-home work. I can see the importance of having younger students on site, as being on site, the student gets the most out of their learning. So I am strongly in favor of getting students or children back to school more than 2 days a week. I'm confused as a parent what the gating factor is, because when you look at the data that comes out from the school, we're in the low category for Carroll County transmissions, as well as low on the metrics since December, right? So according to the school district's educational model rubric, we should be back in full person. I do understand there is an asterisk there with the 6-foot guideline from the CDC. If the 6 foot is what we're stopping us for in-person learning full, why is it that last month you guys voted 6-2 to put winter sports back in effect? I think sports are great and kids can learn a lot from sports. Playing sports is important, and I'm fully supportive of sports. But why is it okay for sports to play with less than 6 feet, no plastic barriers, playing schools outside of the district, doing it with just masks, but it's not okay for kids to be in school with less than 6 feet, with masks and barriers? I'm confused as a parent because we discussed sports at great length last month. The athletic director had a great plan, even a plan B, but the school board spent only minutes talking about the education model. Shouldn't we be asking the question like, what would a 5-foot or a 4-foot social distancing model look like? Can we get more kids back into the school? Can we open up the elementary schools? Because this seems to benefit them, the younger children, more on site. If you're willing to open or let sports play without 6 feet social distancing, why can't we have full in-person education model? Why can't we give it a try? Other districts in the state are trying. Other districts in the state are trying, and they have succeeded. We're the only district in Carroll County that is still hybrid, besides a charter school in Conway and Freedom Elementary. Why aren't we trying to learn from these other schools in the county in the region? I have talked to teachers and parents in other districts to see how they're doing the full in-person model. Some districts have air purifiers in each room to help reduce the risk. They feed the kids in the classroom and not in the cafeteria. They use the unused space like the library and classrooms like art and music that aren't, they're mobile because kids don't go to those classrooms, so they're using those for learning. They're doing this all without barriers and all with just masks and less than 6 feet of social distancing. So can our district better utilize the space we have to get our students back full-time. I just learned from another parent this week that we're moving bookshelves out of classrooms to make more space for students. Shouldn't we have done this in July and August, not halfway through the school year? So tonight, as you talk about the future model, I urge you to use the data to make the decision. The data that we have been in the low cases category for Carroll County, as well as the low school impact metric since December. The data that 55% of the parents in this district are okay with their kids in school with less than 6 feet. The information from the state of New Hampshire that if 6 feet can't be achieved, 3 to 6 feet with masks is the next recommendation. Using the data from other schools to understand how they're making it work. Because remember, the decisions you make will impact the education of over 2,000 kids in the district. So what the decisions you make can be able to defend them. Because when my child asks me again why she can't go to school 4 days a week and why there are more kids in her class this week than last week, I'm going to have her call you guys to find out and give her an answer, because I don't have any answers left for her. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no other public input, let's move on to the rest of the agenda at this point. Under Superintendent's report, deliberative session review.
Okay. Okay, got it, finally. All right, deliberative session review. I think though the deliberative session was not well attended, with it being live streamed, I've heard from a number of people that they saw it live and felt that it was good information. So I wanted to thank Linda Murphy and Heather Cummings, the Assistant Superintendent, Kathy Oblenis, the Business Manager, for all the work they did to prepare not only the budget, but the information that goes out to the public. It truly is an effort with all hands on deck at the SAU office. And I also, Jack, thanks you for doing double duty, because you did both the budget and the state of the schools.
Thank you.
And I thought it was very articulate and well-paced. The next item is voting times. And the district received information from the Effingham Select Board's office that they would not be holding the school district election or the town meeting on the usual date of March 9th. The school board sent a letter to the select board urging that if Effingham holds the town meeting later than the school district, that the school district election still be held on March 9th like the other towns. The select board has declined the request and plans to hold the election and town meeting on May 11th. The Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office advised us that the ballots of the other towns must be counted and the results must be announced immediately at each polling place. Thus, the results of the election in all the other towns will be announced, unfortunately, before the Effingham residents have the opportunity to vote. The school district has the authority to run its own election. However, I really would not advise this for two reasons. One, given that the select board has already published the date of May 11th for both the town and the school district election. And also, I think running an election is a very serious thing, and honestly, the school district doesn't really have the expertise, I don't think. I don't want to be responsible for running an election and not doing it properly, so I think it's advisable to just, allow it to go forward on May 11th. That's COVID-19 update. I'm really happy to report today that things are going in the right direction regarding COVID. Nationwide and in the state, the COVID cases are trending down. This weekend, the positivity rate was 2.3%, the lowest it's been since November 22nd, according to Dr. Chan of our New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. Over the last 7-day period, there's been a 22% decrease in cases compared to the previous 7-day period. Our number of positive cases has averaged between, you've all gotten the notices, they're averaging between 6 and 8 cases per week the last few weeks. I think it's important for everyone to know that the close contacts that we report do not include the close contacts our staff may encounter from outside of the school. For example, it could be a spouse or a child of one of our staff members that's COVID positive, and thus they may not be able to come to work because they're in quarantine. So that's really been what has contributed to our short staffing. Is not just what you're seeing on my reports, but also what we're experiencing in the schools, because even there are close contacts and people in quarantine that you wouldn't necessarily know about. And so our biggest challenge has been staffing. We've come very close to needing to go remote in a couple of our schools. However, with people filling in for one another, including our paraeducators, we've been able to keep our schools open, and very rarely have we needed to have a classroom be remote, so I'm really happy about that. The school administrators, knowing that we will be coming back to school at some point, have been working on getting ready since we last discussed it in December. And I did want to comment that on the gentleman who just remarked, the moving of shelves and making sure that there's distancing in the classroom. You'll find many rooms in each of our schools that are piled with any excess anything, furniture, books, etc., to make the maximum space available. Right now, what the administrators have been doing is preparing and doing a different configuration, knowing that they also want to keep the desks and tables where students will be as far apart as possible when the time does come to come back. We also have been advertising. Many of you probably heard us talk about some of the needs that we would have staff-wise when we come back. And again, we've been advertising and trying to get those positions filled. I have to say that we haven't had a lot of luck with that, but I don't think that's going to prevent us from opening or fully opening. With the trending down of cases, the increase in vaccinations, and the ability to be outside more pretty soon with the nice weather coming, I think things are looking better for reopening. When we do reopen, we may have some more close contacts when we have a case, and this because the social distancing will not be 6 feet. And some classes may have to go remote for a period of time because of the lesser social distancing. And the thing I think that will be really important for us to take a look at is this week, the CDC is coming out with new guidelines. And so I'll be very interested to see what those new guidelines have to say. And it's specifically guidelines for schools. So I'll be looking forward to receiving those. I do, once again, want to commend our staff. I know they're working many long hours each day, as are other essential workers in our community, and I'm grateful to all of them and all of you for keeping our community going. We are also starting to work on summer programming. I'm sure that some parents are concerned about the potential learning loss, and we are too. So we are planning to run a more rigorous summer program than we generally do, and we hope to have federal funds. The Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Fund should be available to us to use for summer programming, and also for us to use for additional tutoring for our students. We expect to be receiving these funds soon, and to have, if we can find the people, that's going to be the hard part, because we'll have the ability to provide the tutoring. The funds will cross over into school year 2023, so we will look at having a robust summer program, not just this summer, but next summer as well. Next is youth behavior survey.
Well, we can go back on that for a minute. A couple of things to clarify on, talking about full in-house. There's been a question about if we come back full in-house, are we still going to keep the remote option available out there? And I want to make it clear that the remote option is going to stay in place until the end of the school year. So any of the students that are in remote, that the parents have wanted them in remote, that option is still there, even if we come back full in. So that again is the remote is going to be available through the end of this school year. Most of those parents chose that because they just weren't comfortable coming back and having their students in the classroom, and we don't want to take that away from them. One of the major concerns that we've been looking at, the teachers the staff in general in the school districts At one point, we're in Group 1B for vaccinations. They're now in Group 2A. I'm not sure how they got moved from 1B to 2A, but the vaccinations for some of those people in 2A may or may not happen until May or June, based on the rollout of the vaccinations. So that's a concern for some of the staff members as well. They're more apt to be very open to full in-house if they've been vaccinated. Having more students in the classroom, obviously exposure for everyone. We're certainly hopeful that the vaccinations, with maybe the new Johnson & Johnson one being available maybe at the end of February, with that rollout, the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer, that all of these vaccines, these people can get vaccinated sooner rather than later. But that's another concern that we have. One of the other things as we move toward looking at a full-in option, and Kathy sort of mentioned this a little bit, there may be days when entire classrooms have to be remote for several days, just because of the potential for more exposure in a classroom less than 6 foot social distance. That may or may not happen. We've been very fortunate to have children and some close contacts being out for a short period of time and not full classrooms. That may change, obviously, if we go fully in. I would like a discussion, I think, from the board standpoint on some sort of a target for full in. Again, we've got a lot of things to work out on this process, but I think and we've talked about different scenarios. One of the options that makes a lot of sense to me is to looking at the beginning of the final quarter. The final quarter for this year starts on March 22nd. That's the trimester starts on March 22nd. That's about 6 weeks from now. We get through the February vacation time. We've got a few weeks after that, and hopefully, again, more vaccinations will be available between now and then. More of the staff members, more community members can be vaccinated, and we can look at a date. So I'm kind of throwing that out now as a target date. Again, I'm not sure whether we want to have board discussion on that, but I think that would be a target date for me. Again, ending a trimester and starting a new trimester is a natural break as opposed to trying to shift things in the extreme. Any discussion?
I'm certainly happy to move forward with something like that. Would it be the entire district or a slower rollout, for example, like Mr. Williams mentioned, starting with the elementary school and then progressing, or the entire district?
Well, I think that's certainly up for discussion, and we can talk about that. If it makes more sense to do it on the elementary level first, that would certainly maybe make some sense. We have a little more flexibility, I think, in space, if I'm not mistaken, for some of the elementary schools than we do in the high school and middle school. The classrooms are set up. So it may certainly make sense to look at that as a possibility.
I know in reference to the survey that we had received earlier in our emails, I certainly hear the concerns from the staff, but I'm wondering if the beginning of the new trimester sounds like a great idea for a middle school and high school, but I'm wondering if we would need to wait for the trimester change, or if after February vacation we could begin the rollout with an elementary school start and then progress from there, or that the end of the March, the quarter break or the trimester break, we then would have a couple weeks under our belt with the elementary schools in full session. Just throwing that out.
What, you have any thoughts on that, Kathy?
Well, the trimester mark, the trimester mark is the change from one trimester to the other for the elementary schools. So that seems like a natural time for the elementary schools. I think honestly it would probably be better to open all at once rather than to roll out.
Okay.
What do, sorry, go ahead. Were you gonna speak? Oh, I'm sorry. Kathy, do we have if, like Jack said, fully remote is an option for folks that don't feel that they want to bring their children back into the facility, would we have enough staff to open the school fully, K through 12?
Well, we might not have exactly the everyday, we might not have, say, a certified special educator where we'd like to have them every day. The same thing with an English teacher, we might have a substitute filling in. So we're going to have to put it together that way. Obviously, if everybody is healthy, then that's great. And if they're not in quarantine, no problem. So it's hard to tell. I don't think our remote group, since our remote group is about 20% of the population, that does take some of the pressure away in some ways, but not entirely, because it's not an exact match.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
So,
Would we, I guess, would we survey the parents again?
well, we know which parents want their students in. So we did that when we talked in December.
Yep.
In preparation. So it wasn't really a survey. It was actually, because I think some people had asked, oh, what are the results of the
Yep.
survey? It wasn't really a survey. It was more like
It was an
registration.
ask, yep.
Yeah, it was. Under these conditions, will
Right.
you have, and it had names and everything so that we would know exactly who would be coming back. So, you know, I know that once the decision is made, and everybody is on board with it, that the staff will work as hard as they can to make it all work. And sometimes I know principals have been in classrooms, you know, paraeducators have filled in, so there'll be
again,
some pinch
yes.
hitting, but
So if we brought everyone back that wanted to come back, like Jack said in March, that would probably, it would not be at 6 feet social, there's no way.
in some places in the
Well,
schools, it would be.
Yeah,
And in some schools, in other places, it would be 5 feet. In other places, it would be 3 or 4 feet.
okay.
I don't think I've heard from anyone that would be closer than 3 feet. Obviously, things happen. You know, there might be a student that needs this or that, and so you're going to be a little closer than.
But again, you can mitigate that with additional PPE if
Right.
required, with
Right.
shields
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just,
And the other date, the March date, again, has been talked about a little bit because of the change in weather. Toward the end of March, it does become a little nicer. Usually, the weather is a little bit warmer, potential for some outdoor activities for the students, also potential for opening windows, getting some additional fresh air in the buildings. So I think, you know, if we did it right after the February break, you know, even though that's, maybe we're only talking another 3 weeks after that, again, I think the fact that you're later into March and the weather is getting to look, you know, more toward that springtime weather makes a lot more sense and a lot more manageable for the teachers and the staff, I think.
just planning.
So, again, I'm not looking for necessarily a vote to say that's the guaranteed date, but I think that should be our target if the board wants to agree to that. And at our March meeting, we can verify exactly how that's going to, you know, be rolled out. Charlene?
You know, we did receive,
I can't hear you, Sharon.
There you go.
Yep.
we did receive the results of the GWRSD survey prior to our meeting, and I think as long as the numbers are heading in the right direction, then the start of, we're saying the last trimester or the last semester? Last trimester?
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable target date. as long as the numbers are still heading in the right direction. However, I'm very concerned that we have still a goodly number of staff that are in the at-risk category because of comorbidities. And is there any effort on the part of the New Hampshire School Boards Association to try to come together to create some sort of create a letter to send to the governor asking that he please reconsider and put teachers in the category of essential workers, because I would be much more likely to support a fully in-person learning component, although still allowing for fully remote for others, those who desire that, as long as our staff members can be fully vaccinated by then.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think it's important that we make every effort from our standpoint. I think the New Hampshire School Board Association, if I'm not mistaken, has already sent a letter to the governor in that respect. I know we talked about that at one of our meetings. And I think the NEA New Hampshire has to do the same thing. I think they have to put some pressure on to make it very aware that the teachers are as essential as any other essential worker as such. They're with the kids every day. Why they got bumped from one group to another, I'm not sure. But I mean, it's great for older people to be able to get their vaccination, and moving it from 75 to 65, I think for that group of people was very fine. But I think when you look at the teachers, and I'm not talking about just teachers, I'm talking about the entire staff, bus drivers and health, and our food service workers and custodians and all that. Everyone is here taking care of our children. And I think it's important that we do that. So I think we as a school board could certainly send a letter to the governor's office and his task force. I think the union should do the same thing. Try to put some pressure on to see if we can move that needle somehow to get some of the teachers, in that next group of vaccines. And again, hopefully with the introduction, my understanding is that if the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is approved, it will probably be approved maybe by the end of this month. If that's the case, hopefully that might help and get additional vaccines into the area. So that's where I am. So again, I'm not necessarily looking for a motion, or if we want to have an official motion to keep the first day of the last trimester as the target date for all in. I'm fine with that.
I would like to make a motion to have the first trimester at the end of March. What was the date?
March 22nd.
March 22nd to be the target for the Governor Wentworth to open up K through 12 in person and as appropriate with the guidelines.
Second.
Okay, so moved and second, moved by Wendy. Seconded by Tim. Target date for the 22nd of March. Any other discussion so far?
So it would be the target date for reading.
Yeah, and we're going to firm that at our March meeting.
Yeah, that would be, but I just want.
That's a month from now.
Important.
So a month from now, we'll sit down and we'll make sure that everything looks like it's in place, and then we can officially vote to move that date forward if that's appropriate at that time. Yes, Charlene?
I could vote in favor of that motion if it includes a component for our staff to have been able to receive COVID vaccinations by then.
I think
I'm concerned about the number of staff members, based on the survey, who just are not comfortable with coming back full-time unless they've been able to be fully vaccinated.
That's why I want the motion as a target, not a guaranteed date.
Okay?
If it's a target date, it can change if it looks like vaccines are not going to be available for teachers until the end of June, and it makes no sense, and we have too many staff members at risk, and we can't do that, then we can't do that. But this is really a target date that we're putting on the calendar. This is going to be the date if everything falls in place the way it should. Okay? Right, any other comments on this? Jim?
Can you hear me? Oh, good. Okay. I'm embarrassed to say I can only make out about half of what everybody's saying over here, except for Wendy, who is projecting very well.
Loudmouth.
So I'm wondering if Scott's up there, if he's able to feed some of our microphones into this monitor here.
I cannot do that, or you will get the worst feedback of your life.
Right.
So
Okay.
people on stage really should speak up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, we will make sure that we speak very loudly, okay, everybody, right into the microphone.
Okay. Well, then can I just ask one clarification? What date are we looking at? Could you repeat that
22nd.
for the,
March
The target date?
22nd.
Yeah, March 22nd, which is the beginning of the final trimester.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other comments on that? So we're going to, the motion on the floor is to make March 22nd the target date for full in-school K-12. Yes, Colleen?
Just for clarification, that target date still includes the fully remote component for those who are interested.
Correct.
Correct. We
Okay,
can add that
just-
right to the end of the motion, that
Yep.
that will not affect the fully remote option that is going to stay in place until the end of this school year.
Okay, I just wanted the clarification. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, we'll take a roll call vote on this. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Put the microphone down.
Yeah, say, yeah, Julianne said yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Jim Pittman? Yes. Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? Yes. And chair votes aye as well. So March 22nd will be the target date for full in-school, barring any change. And we'll discuss an official date, making sure that that is the official date at our March meeting. Okay? Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Jack. The next item is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. This is the time of year when the school board discusses whether you want to move ahead with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. As you saw in your packets, I did a quick sheet just to give you an overview related to drugs and alcohol, because that seemed to be the focus of concern over the last few years. And there was quite an improvement overall in that area. However, the survey covers many other areas, from physical inactivity to dietary behavior questions, questions related to suicide, questions related to risky sexual behavior, and some of these are areas of concern as well. So the surveys have been in the hands of the schools for quite some time, and though we've seen some improvement, there's always more work to be done. One of the policies that you'll hear about tonight addresses suicide prevention. And for any of the public that might be interested, the survey is on the district website for those who wish to take a look at it. So what I'd be looking for tonight is a discussion about the, whether or not you'd like to move forward with the survey.
Any discussion? What's the timing on when the survey goes out, and how time-consuming is it?
Well, that's the biggest problem. It's done in you know, within a few hours, but, you know, there's a pro and con, obviously. We've had a loss of a lot of instructional time, and this would be loss of more instructional time this year. So,
Is it something we could distribute online,
yeah, I believe it can be taken online. I
Like
believe
as
they've been working on that.
Yeah, if it could be shared with parents
Yeah.
or something like that, that they could do at home.
Yeah, like
Just
if
so
they,
that we're.
Well, it has to be shared directly with the kids, just because of the nature of some of the questions.
confidentiality.
So, but I do believe that it's online. It's an online survey, so, or they've moved it online.
You know, I
theoretically-
guess my opinion is, as important as I think this information is, we've got a lot of other issues going on this year, and I don't want to take any more time away from the students' learning abilities and time frame that they may have. I mean, if we skip the year, I mean, I don't know, I'm just concerned about the timing.
Well, we have, like you said, Jack, we have the data from last year. I mean, obviously, we all can sit here and say we know mental health and all of those things are at the forefront, if not more, you know, so we have a good baseline.
To be honest with you, I think our schools are very well aware
Yep.
of all of this information. I think maybe the only surprise would be the fact that the questions related to drugs and alcohol actually improved over the last few years. So that was nice to see. But I think right down to individual students, I think our faculty and our administration have a really good read on where our kids are at and are working every day to help them with all of these issues. So I do not think it would hurt our students not to do it for a year.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to not do it for 1 year. That would be my preference.
I
I
support
think
that,
with
yeah.
the state we're in, even though, again, you know, the information is very useful, and who knows what those numbers would look like because of what's going on. But I think, like you said, Kathy, you pointed out that the staff's on top of it. I think we'll just have to kind of go back to the old way of dealing with it. Just do that and fortunately not participate, because I would hate to take up more classroom time.
Okay. And any other comments? Because I think this is an action item, so I think if we're gonna delay it, I'd need a motion to, delay this for 1 year and review it next year. Charlene?
Before we move into making a motion and whatnot.
Make sure you speak up loudly so Jim Pittman can hear.
Sorry. Is that okay? Is that good? Before we go through the action, one of the things I was struck by is the fact that it seemed that at least the numbers in terms of drug use were heading in the right direction. However, when it came to the section on sexual and domestic violence, sexual and dating violence, from what I saw from the charts, the numbers were not heading in the right direction. And I want to make sure I know that we have all kinds of programs in place, and I'm hoping that regardless of whether we conduct this year, we make sure that we are addressing the fact that sexual and dating violence, the numbers are ticking up. And I was also struck by the disparity between the question that asked boys and girls whether they had experienced that and the responses, and then the question that asked boys and girls whether they had perpetrated any of that. Not a single person said, oh yeah, and that's statistically impossible. So I'm hoping that, we have programs in place at the earliest of ages talking about, what consent is, and if your parents want you to hug Uncle Fred, not picking on anybody named Fred, it just, or Aunt Susie, and the child doesn't want to do it, we don't force them to do it. And a lot of that is something that I realize has to happen in the home, but we can also make sure that we give kids, make sure they're empowered to say that, no is no, and it's okay to say no. Because I would very much, like to make sure that there's a focus on that in our schools, starting from kindergarten.
Thank you, Charlene. Any other comments?
Charlene, only that I agree with you, and I know that teachers are doing that, starting very young, starting in kindergarten, helping kids make healthy choices and helping kids learn to say no.
Okay, seeing no other comments, I'd entertain the vote then on delaying the youth risk behavior survey for 1 year. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Yes.
Put the microphone down.
Say it again, Julianne?
Okay, Julianne said yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? Yes. And chair votes aye as well. Thank you.
Right. Next item on the agenda is girls ice hockey as a funded sport, and this is also an action item. There's a request to recognize girls hockey for 40% funding. As per our policy, Aaron House has provided an evaluation of the program. I know for several years we were struggling to get enough girls involved to maintain a hockey program. However, if you look at the past 5 years, our numbers have been stable, and I think we're at a level now where I can support a 40% funding level under this policy. So Aaron is here tonight, and thank you for being here, Aaron. So if you have any questions after reading the evaluation, he's here to answer them because I know he'll do a much better job than I would.
Thank you, Aaron. Good evening. Hi. I'm sorry. Do you want me to go over the evaluation?
No, I think
Okay.
you just see if anybody has any questions, and like I said, I know that you can answer them better than I can.
Yep. Charlene?
Hi, Aaron.
Hi.
I just want to preface my questions with the statement that I fully support girls ice hockey becoming a funded sport at Kingswood. But I did have a few sort of housekeeping, boilerplate kind of questions I think the taxpayers might want to have answered. So first of all, and this one should be super easy, is there a varsity and junior varsity program planned?
No, we've only had enough numbers to field a varsity program.
Okay, so there's the varsity, all right. How far afield do you anticipate going for the games?
I'm sorry?
How far beyond Kingswood do you anticipate traveling for the games? Like, are they going to be going to Berlin? Are they going to be going to Nashua or Kentucky?
Yeah, so in a normal year, there's only one division for girls ice hockey in the States, and all teams are Division I. So we do our best to try to make a reasonable travel schedule, but there are times when we might have Keene on our schedule. There are years where we may have Berlin. Typically play an 18-game season, so the chances of playing everyone once is there. But this year's been tricky, obviously, with COVID-19. So really, you could go as far as Keene or Berlin. Those would be your long trips, along with Hanover.
Okay. And could you explain what the in-kind donation from the district is?
Yeah, so any sport that is started here at Kingswood when they're put on the 5-year probationary period based on the JJIBB policy, the district gives in-kind transportation. So essentially, the first 5 years the girls' hockey team existed, they did not have to pay for transportation to get to their away games. So it was hard for me to really put a real number on that transportation line, only because it's something that we've never budgeted for.
Okay, so the district's a district donation is paying for the travel.
District covers the transportation for girls' hockey like it does for all of our sports.
Even if this wasn't a funded sport to start with, we'd still provide the transportation. So that would continue if this is a full funded sport.
Got it. Okay, are you at the point after 5+ years into the program that uniforms are going to be replaced right away? Because I noticed the uniform replacement every 4 to 5 years at 4,500 estimate is not included in the 27,000. So are you anticipating that since it's been, I guess, a little over 5 years, you're going to be wanting to, find that money to replace the uniforms?
Yeah, so the girls' ice hockey program received new uniforms last year, so and they're really great uniforms, so I would think 4 to 5 years from now is when I would put that request into my budget to replace those.
Okay, so they got new uniforms, you'd say, in, let's see, 2019?
I believe they were purchased last summer.
Okay, so that'd be
I'm
2020.
sorry, so let's say 2019.
2019,
Yes.
okay. Now, one question I had was, what does it mean to be one of 8 schools that is not in a co-op with another school district? I'm not familiar with what that, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, really, it should be a source of pride for our community and the girls playing and our coaching staff. There are 16 teams in Division I. 8 of them are in co-op arrangements where you may join forces with another school district to try to field a team. It does make things complicated for the division at times. For example, St. Thomas, Winnicott, and Dover High School. That is one hockey team, and they're pulling girls from over 2,000 people to try to build a team where we are, just pulling girls from Kingswood Regional High School and our 800 or so student athletes. So that is what I meant by that. There's 8 teams that are by themselves and 8 teams that have been created by co-ops.
Okay, and where does the other 40% you're anticipating, where is that going to come from? Is that going to come from user fees and fundraising?
Yes.
Because you're only asking us to provide 60%.
Correct. I'm just asking for the girls to be recognized in their appropriate year that they're at now. And then, any shortfall from there is raised by girls' user fees that they are charged to play and or fundraising.
Okay, great. And I think last but not least, they started in 2014, the 2014-2015 school year. And that year plus 2015 and 2016 are not in your chart. And I was just wondering if you know how many girls were on the roster in those 2 years.
I could get back to you on that. I think it's within the same. I wasn't here the first year that girls hockey started, but 2015, 2016, I was here, and I want to say they had 14 girls.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Aaron? I think you covered it all, Charlene, thank you. I think you covered it all. No, you're fine. Oh,
What?
I just said you covered all the questions, so you're good.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
okay.
you. Okay, if there's no other questions for Aaron, then I'd entertain a motion to support recognizing girls hockey under the JJIBB policy for funding.
Second.
Okay, moved by Charlene, seconded by Tim. Okay, Krista?
Yes.
Says
Put the
yes.
microphone down.
Julianne? Yes. Yeah, Julianne says yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana? Yes. And chair votes aye as well. Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that.
Thanks
Thank you,
for being
everyone.
here, Aaron. All right. Future school board meetings. We need to make a decision about where our next school board meetings will be. We don't have to decide them all tonight, but I just thought I'd give you a list of where we're scheduled to be, and you can talk about where you think we should meet. Originally, our March 8th meeting was scheduled to be in Ossipee. Our April 5th was scheduled to be at April 5th was Crescent Lake. May 10th, oh, I'm missing one.
So March, April, May?
Let's see, March was Ossipee, April is Crescent Lake, it's May that I'm missing, because June is our joint board
Oh, it's,
meeting.
it's our joint board in May with the LR,
Okay.
or like LRTC Center.
Okay.
May is
Having that.
And then June is also in the Skylight Dining Room, so they're both at LRTC.
Yeah.
That's, so whether you want to go back to the original schedule or be here for the next meeting, and what you want to do about the future meetings.
Well, I think, I guess, May and June, if we're going to have a joint board meeting, I guess that would be a question if we're going to actually hold a joint board meeting or not. And kind of the same thing, June is the meeting that we have for retirement reception and all of that. Hopefully, we will be able to do that if things continue to look up the way they are.
I think we'll probably need, if we are able to do it, we'll probably need to do it a little bit differently than we've done it in the past. You know, we might have to have people in 2 rooms or, but, you know, I guess we'll figure that out based on what the trend is at the time.
I'd say, I don't know, for me, I go, why don't we have March here? And then if we vote to move forward with opening, then I think it's plausible to have, like, go to Crescent Lake in April. We've potentially opened the school by then. I think we have to show that if we want everyone to be there, we should be there too. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, anyone else?
I think March.
Same thing?
And we'll
March
figure it
here
out.
and
Yeah.
potentially April at another location? Everybody in agreement with that? Okay, so, yeah, I guess I'll entertain, since it's on here as an action item, I'll entertain this as a motion as well for, to hold the March meeting at the Arts Center again, and the April meeting will be determined at the March meeting.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, moved by Tim.
Second.
Okay, Krista, you all set? Krista said yes. Julianne? Yes. Julianne says yes. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Jim Pittman? Yes. Charlene? Yes. Dana? Yes. And chair votes aye as well. Okay, we're good with that. Thank you.
All right, and then School Boards Association, and I don't know when you want to do you want to wait until the very end to do House Bill 20?
Yeah, I've just got a real quick, from the School Board Association, we did have our annual meeting, which was remote. It was done very well. The voting process was well done. We actually hired a company that just does that. So you could log right on and vote right on the screen, which is really terrific. Our next meeting is March 24th. That's going to be another remote meeting, but at that March meeting, we'll have delegates from each one of the Senate and House of Representatives. They're going to have their representatives there. Congressional offices, that's what I was trying to say, at our meeting, again, remote, and they generally try to update us on what our 2 representatives and our 2 senators are doing in Washington, what committees they're on, what their plans are. Obviously, we have some new people in Washington this year, and hopefully we can get something done. So that's really all I have for the New Hampshire School Board. So we can move on to House Bill 20.
Before you move on,
Yes.
made me think, we had discussed back on item B, as far as sending a letter to the governor. It was brought up, did the School Board Association do the same thing, requesting advancement with the vaccine?
Yep.
Does that need to be an action item, or can we just give you a...
Let's just do it as a directive to the superintendent to write that letter, and
Okay,
we'll send that
perfect.
letter under her name and my name as board chair.
Yeah, I just figured
Yep.
if we can give any sort of nudge and support towards our staff, that would be good.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that.
So House Bill 20, Krista had asked me to put this on the agenda. I think Krista keeps pretty up to date on what's going on in Concord. And House Bill 20 would create a nearly universal voucher program where students attending both public and private schools would qualify for a voucher. Students who enroll in the program would have to disenroll full-time from their public or charter school. There aren't any provisions in the bill that would protect students from discrimination, but the bill does protect educational service providers from being discriminated against based on their religious affiliation. Parents would receive between $3,786 $6 and $8,458 minus administrative fees, which are to be around 10%, is my understanding, and would be placed in an education freedom account or voucher to be managed by the Independent Scholarship Organization and funded from the Education Trust Fund. So essentially, those dollars would go from taxpayers into a fund for parents. Parents could use the voucher program for various education-related expenses, including private and religious school tuition, program costs, homeschooling costs, tutoring services, computer and software, summer programs, college tuition, which is new unto me. I've never seen that in a voucher program before, or other approved expenses. And recipients would be permitted to roll over unused funds from year to year. Students with educational disabilities would have to waive their rights under federal and state disability laws, including the right to an IEP, the right to services, the right to a free and appropriate public education, and the least restrictive environment. There is little public oversight for state funds. There's no financial audit requirement for the scholarship organization to ensure that they are appropriately using the public funds, nor are participating students required to take or submit the statewide assessment that public and charter school students are required to take. There's no requirement that participating students take any assessment of any kind in order to ensure that public dollars are going towards programs that provide the opportunity for an adequate education. HB 20 as proposed would be the most far-reaching voucher bill in the country. Other states with voucher programs are targeted to low-income students, students with IEPs, and other identified or discrete student cohorts. HB 20, however, would be a nearly universal voucher program that is not targeted and is open to nearly all New Hampshire children. Voucher programs have been shown to hurt student outcomes. Long-term studies of voucher programs have shown that participants in voucher programs have significantly lower in math reading scores than those who do not, and those dips persist for years after the initial study. Other short-term studies by independent research organizations and universities suggest that voucher programs hurt or have an insignificant impact on student outcomes. The really, I think, scary part for taxpayers is this is being touted as something that will save taxpayers money, but there's no way that it could save taxpayers money. And last year there was a study done that indicated that the cost, because this is just a reboot from something that was proposed last year, only it's more extensive than what was proposed last year. So last year, the study that was done said that the taxpayers would have to pay over $10 million over a 10-year period, in addition to what they're already paying. So, I think this is a far-reaching bill. I honestly don't understand what problem the bill is trying to solve, because by almost any measure, New Hampshire does very well as far as education goes, and this is really something that is coming in from other states. As a matter of fact, there were lobbyists from Arizona at the last meeting. So, I know, Krista, you may have done some research and may want to.
No, my concern was that.
Make sure
You're not
you
on,
speak.
Krista.
Speak right into it.
My concern is that the bill will in fact take money away from us.
Right.
You know, and I think that's, we just went through our budget process, and we are very thoughtful and very mindful in doing that. But this really frightened me when I saw it, and it frightened me that there wasn't an accountability system put in place for it. There wasn't an accountability system for how the money was spent, and there wasn't an accountability system for measuring growth for students, and there wasn't really an accountability system for having certified or highly qualified educators teaching in those programs. And I don't know how to get our representatives, so I'm throwing this out to people, to stand up and vote for their local communities and not vote for the voucher program. That's the kind of thing that I think needs to happen. And I thought that if we talked about it a little bit tonight and put it out on the table for people to hear, that they can get in touch with their local representatives and say, this is not good for our district or any other district in the state.
Was it killed in committee last time?
No, I don't think so.
Did it go to cross, like,
I think it was tabled.
tabled?
Yeah, I heard that there were some hearings on it. There were some hearings last week, and I think they scheduled additional hearings this week, because they had over 200 people that wanted to speak on the bill last week.
Well, I can
And they
tell you,
couldn't-
sorry, Jack, I have the statistics on last week, on the voting last week, and it was, there were 3,198 who signed in opposition, 600 who signed in support, and 5 who signed in as neutral. So there is a lot of opposition to it. I think a lot of people do understand what this will do to public education, and it will be of no benefit to the taxpayers either.
It is unfortunate that there is a contingent in Concord right now that is very anti-public education, and this is one of the bills that's really, out there creating some major issues for public education and for the local taxpayers. Thank you, Krista, for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Kathy?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, I have nothing else to report this evening, so we'll move on to academic affairs. Wendy?
Sure. Just to do it quickly, I want to bring the policies that we reviewed this evening before. Let's see. I wasn't prepared. Let's see. All right. So I would like to bring forward for first read policy number BEA regarding just kind of the overarching how we would present materials at a school board meeting. Again, there was minor tweaks that we all suggested.
And Wendy, and I don't mind talking to that a little bit, because a lot of times we have a one agenda item for on a public regular public meeting, and the initial thing says the board agenda shall have minutes of previous meetings for approval. Well, there may not be any meetings because we may have already done that. Public input, well, if it's a one item that doesn't require any public conversation, we don't necessarily need to have that. Report from a student representative, right now we don't have a student representative, so when it says shall, we want to change that to may in the policy, because it makes more sense, and that's really the only change in the policy. Everything.
Yeah, we had a couple minor changes,
Okay.
Jack, that
Yep.
and
that's
Heather was going to amend it. Obviously, we'll all see it before the second read, so.
That's fine, but that was really just to clean up, in some instances, when we have a regular school board agenda, it doesn't require every one of those items to be included in there. Because
Right.
It's not appropriate. Okay, thank you.
Sure. And then we had GCG, GCR, and GCR2. It's regarding part-time and substitute professional staff. And again, we all reviewed it in advance and had some suggested changes that Heather will make and then be fully distributed for the second read. And then we had JLBD, and that is a state mandated based on an RSA that was approved for suicide prevention. We do have suicide prevention already programmed, but we have to have a policy because it was an RSA that was there, so it has to be a written formal policy submitted. And so we have that. And EBBCF regarding temporary emergency travel policy, obviously due to COVID-19, and just what we deem as travel guidance for employees for essential and non-essential and at-risk personal travel. And then we had policy EBCF, again regarding pandemic, epidemic emergencies, again, for first read. Again, Heather, we had some minor changes, and Heather's going to put that together and then redistribute for second read, and then I think we may have a Zoom kind of if we have to do a second read approval, we might have to do that, but that will be distributed. And then again, I first want to, and feel free for my other committee, I don't need to be the stage on the stage here by any means, so if you guys want to input on, we had Susan Merrill and Katie Hills present to the academic affairs. They first came to us back in November, kind of really give an overview of how last year went, what we're looking to do to institute a more of a, systematic approach to online, fully remote, and hybrid learning, because obviously it's a new realm for everyone here, not just here in Governor Wentworth, I would say worldwide. And first, I just want to say thank you to the administrators, the teachers, the support staff, everyone that's been able to kind of put together what we, have been able to overcome the almost past year and a half, it's been monumental. And I just want to thank the staff and the parents and the patients and everyone coming together in the community to do what's best for the kids, because it's not easy and nothing's perfect, but I can sit here and say I am proud that everything we are doing. And I think it was really good for the Academic Affairs Committee to kind of get a reboot from Katie and Susan of where we are. And I know that I hear personally from folks, and I'm sure teachers do, and other members that sit here, that everyone is, is struggling at times. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not, and we hear it. But I want to say that I just want to thank the staff, the teachers, administration, everyone here that sits with me, because I think we're in it together and doing the best that we can. It has been a struggle for the teachers and students for fully remote and hybrid. It is different. Obviously, we all feel we want the kids back in school. And some kids, we hear from parents that the kids do better in person. And, again, that's subject to matter to every different kid, but overall kids do better in school. I would say that Katie talked about how we've been able to really peel back the core competencies, and the primary focus is obviously reading and math. We have had to pare down science and social studies, and I'm sure parents are aware of that. And basically, when, kind of listening to her, because of the in-school, then going home, and kids, not all kids have the support that is needed, overall the curriculum, overall we will only be able to really teach probably 50% of what the teachers would have been able to teach if we were in-person training in school. And that's not just here, that's everywhere. And I think we're all struggling as a nation of how do we deliver education without being fully in person. I think just listening to her, it was, they're putting out more and more resources for the parents to engage the kids on their moods, to kind of reinvigorate how they're gonna learn in the morning. But I don't know if you guys want to chime in. I think it was really good for me to hear her and all the different things that they're trying to do for the parents and the staff to ensure success. But in full transparency, we know that it's not perfect,
I was impressed with the steps that Katie and Susan have taken in order to adjust the curriculum to target specific benchmarks and skills that the kids need to get. Because you can't expect anyone to get 5 days of learning done in 2.5 days, basically. Correct. Is what we're talking about. And so to have taken that on, to do some coordinating and leadership about that, and to give the teachers license to focus on specific things, I thought was really excellent.
And I agree with you. You know, Katie was talking about math. I mean, certainly, I'm sure it's very difficult, you know, especially for the youngsters to, you know, learn math virtually when you don't have someone standing, you know, like I said, you know, I was able to go to homework club and have someone help me. And it's very difficult, but to know that they're not just taking the first brush and going, this is how we're going to do it. I mean, they've augmented the curriculum and stuff, 3 times, and, you know, they're now testing that out. Does it work? Is it successful for the teachers to be able to educate the kids? We're always constantly evolving, and I you know, again, I think speaks volumes of the testament of how the teachers and want the kids to succeed in, you know, this pandemic. They're gonna come back in, I think, March, and again, present to us, but I just want to thank them and the, you know, the staff. It's not easy, and it was a really good meeting, I think. That's it. If you guys have anything you want to say, that's...
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. Next up is building and maintenance. Julianne, you have anything for building and maintenance?
No, we have nothing.
Okay, building maintenance and not met, so nothing today. Finance, again, I thought the deliberative session, the information was great. Anybody that has any questions about the budget or anything else that was presented at the deliberative session, feel free to, you know, contact the SAU office, contact myself. I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Voting again will be in March, and we'll move forward from March 9th, which is the day after our meeting. And I have nothing for human resources today. Advanced planning, you can see our no school, February 22nd to the 26th. That's the February break, winter recess. Our next board meeting is going to be March 8th at 7 o'clock here in the Art Center. And I will ask for public input if there's any public input. Yep.
Just making sure you can hear me.
Yep.
Is that fine?
We're good.
Thank you. Should I introduce myself, or do you already know who I am? Jess Williams?
Yep.
Couple of things. The first thing I would like to comment on is I would ask the board to motion to rescind the approval of the January 30th meeting minutes since they are falsified documents. The meeting was actually adjourned prior to the non-public session beginning, which would make the meeting minutes false.
Jessica, let me correct you on that. The deliberative session was part of our agenda, and when Randy dissolved the deliberative session, he did that by a vote of the audience, not the vote of the board.
So when he said the meeting is adjourned, and then you motioned to go, and it wasn't actually adjourned.
The deliberative session was adjourned. The meeting was not.
So the meeting was still in. Then why was the public asked to leave?
Because we went into non-public.
And then did you go back into public session?
We have to come back into public session to adjourn the public meeting.
Then why didn't it say that the deliberative session was adjourned in the meeting minutes?
I would have to look back at that, but the deliberative session was adjourned by Randy Walker.
Would you consider amending the meeting minutes to state that the deliberative session was adjourned at a specific time?
At the end of the deliberative session meetings themselves, yes.
So you're saying that the document that you just signed is true?
The document we approved is true the way it was presented, yes.
But it said the meeting was adjourned. So generally adjourned means the meeting is over.
The
so deliberative session is a session. It's not actually...
Right. Randy's wording, when Randy said, does anybody want to adjourn the meeting that he was talking about is a deliberative session which he was in charge of. The school board was not in charge of the deliberative session. Randy, as a moderator, used his terms to end the deliberative session,
okay,
which was part of our regular agenda.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I was also hoping that you would discuss the pandemic policy in the school board policy manual on page 171. because it states there, it's very short. It was, the last time it was amended was in 2009, and it uses this document here that says, in the case of a pandemic, that the district has to follow this document. This document was written in 2007, put out by the Department of Health and Human Services in New Hampshire. So it's unclear to me why we're following all these other guidelines here, there, and everywhere, where we're, you know, Jack, you're saying that you feel better about 6 feet, but Department of Health and Human Services says 3 feet. The Department of Education says 3 feet. There are a lot of other documents that contradict the things that you've been saying here all along, and I think it's frustrating for us as parents to feel like we don't have a voice here, and that this board isn't really digging deeply. I know you're all working hard, and I'm not going to take that away from you, but I think you need to dig a little bit deeper here and follow your own policies. And I don't expect you to answer any questions, because Kathy cleared that up for me, thank you, that I will not ask questions at these meetings ever again. But I do think that since we've been in a pandemic for over almost a year now, and this board has not amended its own pandemic policy, yet it's following guidelines from the CDC when it feels like it, despite Robert Redfield saying that schools should open and they're safe, despite the new director of the CDC saying that teachers should get back to school even without vaccination. Who are we listening to if you're not listening to the parents, the teachers, and the children in our district? That's what I want to know. I want you to think about that tonight. I appreciate that maybe there's some efforts to get back to school, but you're putting all these roadblocks in place still. And I think that's a mistake, and I would like you to reconsider that for the next meeting, please.
Thank you. And with the pandemic policy, by the way, is one that we are reviewing right now. I think one of the most difficult things, and I won't belabor this, but one of the most difficult things is everything that comes out, whether it be the New Hampshire, the HHS or the CDC or World Health Organization, what they put out are, quote, recommendations. There's nothing that says this is what you should do. And that puts everybody in a bind. If it would make our life a whole lot easier if somebody said, you will adhere to this policy, this policy, this policy. That's not what's being said. And even in the state of New Hampshire, you know, you get different information on a weekly basis from the governor and his staff on which way they're leaning toward one thing or the other. And really to say, you know, just go back to school, it doesn't matter if the teachers have been vaccinated or not. Our responsibility is for the safety of everyone. And again, where the teachers have been moved from one group to another group for vaccinations, that makes it really, really difficult for us to say, this is what you should do, or this is what you have to do from a safety standpoint. There's a lot involved, and I appreciate, you know, you bringing this up. We've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to do what we need to do to try to keep everyone safe. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Public input.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I have a couple of high school kids, and I just have a basic question about the March 22nd possible reopening date full-time. I understand that that's when the trimester ends for elementary school, but high school is still operating on quarters, so they would have a different changeover date for classes and so on and so forth. So would they also be looking at starting full-time on March 22nd like the elementary school, or would they have a different date that would go along with quarter 3 or quarter 4 or wherever they are at that point, which is actually really hard to find. I've been searching online on the school calendar and on the Power School app, and I can't figure out when the fourth quarter begins. So maybe you could just answer those questions, that would be great.
I think Kathy has that for you.
I think the idea is to get everyone back as soon as possible safely. So the fourth quarter for the high school students is April 16th. So, you know, that's quite a ways away from that March 22nd date. So you know, I think that's probably why the board is talking about March 22nd and the trimester instead of the quarters. Okay, I'm fine with that. I just kind of wanted to make sure that they were on the same page, or if it was a different date, that as a parent, we could kind of plan for that too for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with public input?
Hi, my name's Bobby Bedman. I just wanted to speak on HB 20 really quickly because you brought it up. February 11th at 9 o'clock in the morning, there will be a meeting for that hearing, and people can attend the hearing via Zoom. So if you go to the New Hampshire State docket, you can enter that Zoom hearing, and it gives you the right to either support it or be against it. Also, I wanted to mention that Jeb Bradley is one of the sponsors, so here locally in our town, it might be good to reach out to Jeb Bradley at Jen. And, oh, Aaron's gone. But one of the things that might help move some of the people in our town is we do have a lot of homeschoolers who use our athletic programs. They will not be able to use our athletic programs anymore. So they're actually the big group who has sponsored this, with Bill Marsh being one of the people who originally pushed homeschoolers not having to have any oversight. So this is pretty local to our community, so it might be good for our community to reach out on this bill. The other thing that I wanted to mention is going back to school full-time. As a mom, I have to say I want my son back in school full-time. There's just no question, like mentally for him. But as someone who has stepped up and into the schools as a substitute teacher, I think it really still is important to talk to our teachers about this. And I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying I've talked to other school districts who are doing this, and they're not doing it the way we're doing it. They don't have any mask breaks inside the schools. The kids go outside. They stand 6 feet apart, and they take all their mask breaks outside the school. They also don't eat in their classrooms. We cluster our younger children in our grammar schools in their classroom, and they eat. So during a day, a normal day for our grammar school children, they're eating, 25 minutes, their lunch, and then they also have a snack for another 10 minutes, so 15 minutes. They're really up to 40 minutes during the day, unmasked, in school. And we think there's that sort of 6 foot, right now happening, but when we go back full time, we're not gonna have that. So I really think it's important for us to reach out to other school districts to see what they're doing, because the way we're doing it, we can't just, go to the 3 feet. I mean, I definitely want the kids in school. I'm not against that. I just think for our teachers, we need to talk to other school districts who are actually doing this already to make this happen for the kids and for the teachers to keep them safe. And then the last thing quickly is our teachers who are, have the higher comorbidities. There is a thing that we have in New Hampshire where the sites who give the vaccines, at the end of the day, they sometimes have extra vaccines. So if you show up at a site that's giving out vaccines for the day, at the very end of the day, they need to put those vaccines in arms. So I would encourage the school district to reach out to the state and find out where all those vaccine sites are. And maybe we can get some of our teachers over to those sites at the end of the day to get shots in their arms before waiting for even their group to come up, the 2A to come up. They might be able to get vaccinated now. I think that's it. There was one. Oh, and then I did have one more question, just quickly, that I just want to ask everybody up there. How many of you who are representing us have actually stepped into our schools during this, into classrooms, and taken a look at what you're voting on? Okay, so not even a third of you. So I would encourage, before we go back full time, to speak to the teachers and actually see how the teachers are teaching so we can work this out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no other public input, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A, semicolon 3, paragraph 2, for a legal and a personnel matter.
So moved.
Moved by Tim.
Second.
Second by Wendy. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Jim Pittman? Charlene? Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Thank you all for coming. See you on March 9th.